Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's now 3 o'clock. I will call this meeting to order. Today is a special call meeting of the Commissioner of Court of Hood County, Texas. Today is Thursday, September the 5th, 2024. We're in the Emergency Operations Center located at 401 Deputy Larry Miller Drive in Granbury, Texas. Where is the invocation, I guess? Well, I guess, Chris Andrews, you want to say the invocation?
Yes, sir, I do that. Let's pray. Father, we thank you for this time that you've given us to come together. Lord, we thank you for this beautiful county that we get to serve, Father, and for so many of the blessings that you give us day to day. Father, we ask now for your wisdom and your guidance that all of our actions here will be in accordance with your will. Thank you for your love, your mercy, and your grace, Father. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. You'll join me in the pledge of the United States.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now to the great state of Texas.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, the first item of business is to discuss and take appropriate action to allow the county judge to sign a service change order from Spectrum to allow for additional call pads. This is an increase in phone lines and will result in a $951 increase on our bill. IT department, yes, sir.
Judge, Commissioner, so before you, as you know, we went through this phone migration. We went from POTS lines to digital lines, and doing that, we ran into an issue with dispatch not being able to call out. And so, of course, we identified it as needing more outbound call lanes, and so that is what is in front of you. It is budgeted, so we do have the money to cover it, but that's why we put it on this special call meeting, because it was important, and it couldn't wait till Tuesday.
And it's $951 a month?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so how long was dispatch unable to make calls out?
So the first few days we were limited. We hit this call where it would just say you've reached the maximum number of calls going outbound. But that is resolved for now, and this will increase. We keep hitting that, but this will give us the increased bandwidth so we can continue to make calls.
Okay, so it's not that no one could make calls, it was just up to a certain bandwidth that they couldn't make
Yes,
calls out?
yes, because everyone shares outbound calls.
And that's been happening since the cutover a
Yes.
couple weeks ago?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the total impact to the budget is $951 times 12, which is?
12,000, a little under $12,000.
Okay, I calculated it earlier.
It'd be a little under.
11.
Yeah, it'd be a little under, yes. And we do have it in our telecom budget for that.
It's in telecom, that was my next question.
Yep. Yes, ma'am.
Anybody else have anything else? If not, do I hear a motion?
I move that we approve that, for the county judge to sign the service change order from Spectrum to allow for additional call paths. It's an increase in phone lines and will result in a $951 increase in our bill.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Commissioner Wilson to allow the county judge to sign the service change order from Spectrum to allow for additional call paths. This would be an increase in phone lines and will result in $950 per month increase on our bill, second by Commissioner Andrews. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries unanimously. That brings us to the next. The next item is to discuss and take appropriate action relating to all matters concerning the 2024-2025 budget. May adjourn into executive session as authorized by the Texas Government Code 551.074, personnel matters. We do have 3 people lined up to speak for this matter. And the first person is Mr. Rick Fry. Mr. Fry.
Judge and Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity. I want to point out that your budget is a legal document. It's your plan. It should include transparency of how you're going to spend the taxpayers' money. We have a habit over years has been adopted that we transfer funds almost every meeting. And I think that when you adopt a budget, to hold the integrity of that budget, you need to hold their feet to the fire. If they say they're going to spend $12,000 on travel and training, then that's their budget for travel and training. The transfers when you do it regularly, it gets to be a habit. Instead of having a line item budget, you got a pool of money they just pull from here and there. And as a taxpayer, I just think that when you do the detail of a budget, that there ought to be justification, and that justification ought to lead to department heads and all the departments holding the line on that budget, being committed, and being transparent about how they plan and how they're going to spend taxpayer dollars. And I just think that we've let that get out of hand over the years, and I urge you to get a handle on that. I think it's necessary. I would like to see that you know, the jail budget is this big, okay? And we anticipate the possibility of approving a addition to the jail. You know, you don't see utilities, you don't see IT costs, you don't see a lot of the details that actually are contributed to the running of that jail. And just in this budget, it cost us, just if you take the addition of the 1.6 million for out-of-county transfers, we're spending $64 a day just in this budget without utility costs and other things. We're spending $100 a day out of the county. And if you add debt service and other things, it doesn't give us a very good picture. And I think we really need that detail to make an informed decision as a court and as a public to decide what we need to do and what's in the best interest of every citizen, every taxpayer. So I just urge you to reflect on that. The other thing that concerns me is the homestead exemption. When you put a percentage on a homestead exemption, it favors people with more expensive properties. You know, if you do a flat $35,000, then everybody, no matter what the cost of their property is, they're going to get, whatever the appraisal is, they're going to get $35,000 as a homestead. If you have, somebody lives in a $200,000 property, they get $20,000. If you live in $1 million property, you'll get $100,000. And I don't think it's equitable. I think that that's something that we need to look at in the future when you decide that we address that issue. I just think that we need to be on point that who are we really favoring, and are we taking care of the less fortunate, the economically challenged people, and I just think that's something that we need to look at in the future. That's all I got. Got questions over there?
Yeah, on what state law, as far as counties go for a homestead exemption, it is only allowed to be a
Just a
percentage.
percentage, okay. I didn't know that. I
Yeah.
appreciate that clarification.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, thank you. Yes,
Excellent points. Thank you.
And on the utilities, I know that combined with the law enforcement center, there's some, all of our utilities end up coming out of general
I
admin.
think there are probably ways that you can probably decipher fixtures and other things and kind of look at that, especially when you're talking about the heating and cooling of the square footage, and even divide that bill by square footage of use and things like that.
Yeah.
That they do a lot of percentage to each area.
Yes,
So
sir.
I just think it would lead to more accurate accounting as far as those costs.
I do not disagree.
And knowing what it's gonna cost to operate the
Exactly.
jail is something we currently don't know.
Yeah.
We know what it costs to build it, estimate. We have an estimate of what it's gonna cost to build it, but we don't have an estimate of what it's gonna cost to operate that jail.
And I think that's very important.
I do too.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Fry. Next speaker is Tina Brown.
Hi, thanks for letting me talk. I looked over this and it looks like a whole lot of the increase is employee costs. So how many new employees does this budget entail and where are they? Can you tell me that?
I don't think we've made a final decision on
Well-
it yet, is it?
Well, the numbers do tell me that it's gone up, so I'm guessing you're basing that on a set number of employees, new employees.
So that budget that you're looking at was published based on a 3% increase across the board and giving everyone what they asked for. So, environmental services asked for 2 people, the sheriff asked for 2 investigators and 2 deputies. 1 person for
Animal control.
animal control, and then I think there was just 1 more for the Citizens Collection Center, is that right?
Yeah.
Conversion.
Well, yeah, there were 3 of them that were kind of converted.
I think the constable asked for.
Yeah, none of mine are in there, none of that's included.
Yeah.
And then
None of those are included in the budget?
Yeah, mine that I requested, none of it's in what was published.
but the
So,
The largest, I mean, if you just take the,
that just sounds like 8 people. 2,
Right.
4, 6, 7, 8
It
people.
wasn't a lot of people. It
But
was,
some of those budgets went way up in income. And I understand that you did a new whole spreadsheet for that. Is that what has caused the income to go up?
No, it basically came out real close to 3%. There were a whole lot of balancing issues in there, but it came out to real close to a 3% increase on the budget. Some of that, like she said, some of that was before, and there've been some pretty significant tweaks here and there, and I think we're gonna go over some of those.
the biggest impacts to the budget were the out-of-county jail
The jail, yeah.
housing. That was an increase of 1.2 million. There was the radios that all of our emergency responders use. It was being paid out of ARPA, now it's in the budget, that's $300,000. There was an increase in our insurance for our fire equipment, that's $200,000. And then also the 3% pay estimated is what we budgeted or put in there for a place to start. 3% just added to the budget is $830,000. So those are your big hitters.
Okay, I also noticed that it seems like almost most of the departments have increased their education, travel, their dues, their books, subscriptions, like, 50, 100, 200%. I mean, some of them, it just seemed not like maybe, I don't know which one. I just scanned through this and looked at the ones that were going really high, because I've been on vacation, I didn't have time. But
think
it
one of
seemed
them was-
like travel was way higher than last year. It seems like also dues, books, and subscriptions. I know travel has increased, just by being on vacation, I know travel has increased, but, and probably all of it together is just a drop in the bucket of the whole budget, so.
Every
But
dollar is
yeah,
important.
yeah. I also saw that general admin was putting 117% increase in contingency.
yeah, so the plan with that was to move some from 55 into there and treat it actually as contingency. So in the previous years, we've used Fund 55 for all the things, and I think it would be better if we use contingency as contingency and then capital projects as capital projects. And so that was the thought process there.
There was also 100% abatement. What do we have under abatement right now?
Yeah, so Kroger was in abatement, and that is no longer, so I took that out all the way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's no longer.
And I saw the treasurer wants a 50% increase in the credit card fees. But when I use a credit card, I have to pay those fees. So I'm wondering why we're being, do those fees not go to fee,
We should be passing those on to the
You are.
consumer.
When
So-
I use a credit card for the county, I pay those fees. So I'm wondering why she needs an increase in fees.
Yeah, I
Are
can
they-
look into that for you.
Okay.
I feel like there's some opportunity there too.
And contract services for the fire protection, it went up 900%. What is that?
So, I don't know if I'm supposed to be answering that one.
Well, and I can answer that one.
Okay.
For the past years, we've had, for all the trucks that the county-owned trucks that are put out at the fire departments, we do the just routine maintenance on them. We've had a contract for that in the past. The provider that has been doing that is a local boy, and he's been doing us a favor on that, but he's no longer doing it. In the past, whenever we've put that out for bid, it's been significantly more than what we were paying. So I think we're going to have to anticipate that the routine maintenance on those is going to go significantly higher. We haven't gotten the bids yet on that, is that correct, Jeff?
Correct. We've gotten a bid.
And
We
it's,
haven't gotten any more. I know there's 2 more that are interested in putting in the bid, but we're not gonna get it at what we've been getting it for the last 15 years, for sure.
Okay.
and you know, it would be nice if we were way over budget on that and didn't end up having to spend that money. That would be nice, but I think that we,
Okay, I
Just
just
kinda
didn't know
reading
what,
the
I
tea
just didn't know
leaves, I
what it
think that we
was,
would have
so
to
I
do
thought
that.
900%.
Yeah,
Let's see
yeah.
where this is going.
it was significant for sure.
Okay, thank you.
And then on some of the, just flipping through, looking at some of the travel and education fees, not all of them, but some of those are new officials that may need a little extra schooling or whatever on
Oh,
that.
and
Well,
I understood.
part of that's in my office.
Yeah.
The new judge has to go to all those new schools, has to have all those new supplies.
And I know that, and
Part
I
of that
know
was mine.
election, a lot of the stuff in election is higher because this is an election year, you know, presidential election year. But I knew that, but I know that, some things are required and some things are, wants. And so maybe some of those wants and travel could be cut back.
I'm just looking at,
And
I don't know.
if I may add on the training part, there are a lot of trainings that we have to go to on both the law and fire side that in years past has been offered as free training. And even free training anymore seems to be non-existent.
Well, I wasn't talking about the things that are required, I was talking about the things that are, you know, I mean, there's
Well, but
lots
that's-
of things that you can go to and learn, but they're not required.
Right,
So,
but that's what, a lot of the required training that we have now,
is-
we used to could go and sign up for free classes because it was one county over, or because we were a member of an association or whatever. A lot of those classes and training that we used to get that was free cost. I don't, you can't find one anymore for less than $2.25, $2.50. And that's per person that you send, not per agency that attends.
okay. Thank you.
Is that it?
Well, I don't know, y'all might talk about something and give me another question.
Okay, good. All right, we got one more speaker signed up. We don't know who this guy is. Somebody named Chad Jordan. Anybody know him? Is he here?
You gotta watch your back around that guy.
Right.
Judge, Commissioners, appreciate the time and us actually talking about the budget some more. Speaking with several, you know, about this budget, how we've got $4 million, you know, in money, and we're actually having a shortfall, and we're looking at an increase in taxes. But yet, when you look at what's proposed, a lot of things that people have asked for are not in there in what was proposed and requested. But yet, we've got 5.25% for one department specifically, just for their clerks. We can't look at county employees, our staff, and push them aside. We can't give it to one department and not give it to the rest. If we look at raises, we need to be across the board. We're getting 104% in one office for clerks increase, so they're doubling, they're adding another clerk, they have one. We got another one, they're gonna add another officer in that, 19.32%. 4% court coordinators, which is above the 2 or 3% that we're not even talking about for our employees. You know, I love and respect my district judge, always have, Judge Walton, Judge Buffkin, but to sit back and for the district judge to say, well, my people get 5% and everybody else can have 2 or 2.5. It's happened in the past. Those are recommendations that are not have-tos. And it says a lot to our county employees when we don't look at them at times whenever it's for the budget that certain people get a raise and some don't. And we're looking at 90 or 87% increase in supervisors in one department, another one, a 96% increase in clerks. We got another official that we're giving a 6.82% increase that nothing says we have to match what the district attorney and the district judge make, but yet we do it every time. So they're getting a 7% increase above other elected officials. Whereas other counties have looked at your elected officials in Parker County and said, look, we have employees making more than elected officials. They've increased their salaries to $98,000 in Parker County. Johnson County last year increased elected officials to $92,000 because there are employees making more than elected officials. There are department heads that are appointed making more than elected officials. We're looking at another one. We're giving, like I said, a 15% increase for, you know, that's crazy when you look at the amount of what that is in that department, because that alone is a third of what a clerk makes in other departments. But we're giving it to one individual. 20% increase in personnel in another department, 50% increase in another one for personnel. And another one that pops out is, talked about education, a 22,280% increase in education and travel.
In which department?
Now that's district clerk, and I really believe that what that is that when you look at the numbers, they had moved money out of their budget to pay for other things. Just like we keep getting our copier cut every year, and we have to move money to pay for our copier, you know, to deal with the massive amount in our office. We just got finished with a tax sale. I mean, it's just massive of what goes on and what we have to print and deal with in the public in those. With the tax office, that's another whole story. And then we talk about the tax rolls, you know, with what we've got coming on with new properties in the county. We've got $1 million added to the tax roll, just on the county side, in what was been set out of the $325 million in property evaluations that they've added. So when we look at this, my question comes back to other counties are increasing their employees. We got people leaving the county to go to work in Parker County, starting at $10,000 more a year than they make here. But yet, we cherry pick individuals, and over the years, you can see where I've gone through, and we cherry pick which individuals get a little special treatment and extra raises above everybody else. But my question is to our employees, when does it stop? When does it stop?
Actually, this
When do
year-
we look at our employees and give it across the board and not special treatment for one over the other? That we tell our county employees, who are the backbone of what happens in this county, that they matter. Because without them, we can't function. And we need to take care of them accordingly. And I hope that we really look at that this year.
And I'll say this, with going in and looking at this matrix, one of the things that was so glaring with this is we've had employees that are 5 and 6 years that are making the same money as somebody that started last month in those positions.
But you also have another individual that went into a department and got $16,000 in pay raises in 6 months in one department. Those are the types of things that have got to change.
So I think that when we go through this, the changes that have been made since that budget, proposed budget, if you see those things, please point them out, because I've spent hours and hours, and so have other people, trying to, well, I'll say it now. The Smokey and the Bandit, when that proposed budget was put out, we have a long way to go and a short time to get there, because there were
Time's ticking.
there were some
Yep.
there were some things that were not correct in that budget. So, not that it's anyone's, you know, just this is a process, and as you know, we can't all sit in a room and discuss it unless we have a public meeting. So.
Absolutely. And I respect what y'all do, and it's a tough decision. And we've had conversations about cuts and about things and looking at what departments are really needed and what things are really going on. Mm-hmm. And where's the work happening, where's it not happening. And it comes down to, it's a tough decision that the 5 of you make.
So as we go through.
But it has to be a real conversation as adults that department heads, we have to accept and really talk about. Mm-hmm. And I'm not afraid to have those difficult conversations.
The date of that's on the one that you're looking at?
Yeah, 8/14.
Okay, well, there's newer ones than that.
Yeah, that's the only one posted that any of us are allowed to see.
Okay, and then, you know, because I think we're on 5th one now, 4th or 5th one, you know,
Yeah.
seriously.
Yeah.
So,
There's 2 versions out there now at this point too.
Yeah.
So,
And let me speak to the clerks, because specifically on that matrix, what happened is, we said, okay, your first year here, you make this much. Second year here, you go to this step. Third year, you go to this step. We had some people that were way up here, other people that were way below that. Just putting a date on it and saying, this is how this system is gonna work now. Some of the people in there, heck, there were a couple of people in there that got 15% increases just because they were so far behind where they should have been on that matrix. But, and this is gonna be a one-time hit. Other people didn't get much of a raise because they were kind of ahead of the matrix. You know, man, I went in there and tweaked those numbers back and forth and did the best I could to get everything as close to 3% increase as humanly possible on that. But like I said, some people got 12, some people got 2.5. I tried to not let anybody be below 2. But it was kind of a struggle, and it's a big bite this year to get everything corrected. But I think in the future, it's gonna make sense. We move the chart a little bit, people get an increase just for years of service, and it kind of balances out, and it's gonna be more valuable the longer you're in that position, being more efficient would be the presumption that you would make. Somebody that's been doing that job for 5 years knows how to do that and is more efficient and can answer the questions than somebody that was hired this year.
I'd have to look at all the, you know, you didn't mention any departments when you were going through it, except for the one I asked, and so, district, yeah, as we go through.
I can tell you all of them.
Yeah, just going through the district clerk, the one I asked where you said there was a
Yeah.
1,000%. So their education travel this current year current budget is $289. Well,
It's like
of
I
course,
said,
that's
that
not
was-
accurate, that's not what they started with, but that will make it look odd, because now it's at $4,500. The total budget for the district clerk overall, from this year to next year, from the current budget to the proposed budget, on this budget that we're gonna look at today, is only $1,000. The district, actually less than $1,000. It went from $439,000 to $439,436 to, well, I guess it was a little bit more than $1,000. So when you have a $440,000 budget and you go up $1,000, that's not outrageous. So I'd have to look at each one of the examples that you gave as we go through and see if, and, you know, respond to why that was, or if it's changed, if it was a mistake and it's been changed, I don't know. So we'll have to go through it.
Anybody else? Is that it? Carl, you got this Constable Jordan?
I thank you very much for your time to speak today.
Okay. That's all the speakers that we have right now. I'm going to executive session.
No, I think we've got a lot of things, I believe, speaking as one commissioner, we have a lot of things that we can do out here in the public. I asked, like I said, I think we have a long way to go and a short time to get there. I asked our auditor if she would run a budget using the no new revenue rate and to see how far we would be off from that. So she has done that. The no new revenue rate is .267358. Is that correct? Did I say the right one? Okay. Yeah. And
267258.
267-258. And if that, is that what you're showing up there?
It's right here, is what you're talking about.
So the top grid, this one is where we are right now, correct?
The highlighted one is,
Oh, yes.
the top grid is what the proposed is based
And
on.
this is the no new revenue rate. So, as you can see from the maintenance and operations, so that's what we call Fund 10. Is that about $5 million decrease in revenue? So, do you want to start, or do you want me to start?
1,089,000.
changes. I'm wondering, I looked at this again today, Stephanie, on the revenue side.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll do it this way 'cause it's not.
And that's using what, so one of the things that our chief appraiser, one of the things that the appraisal district does is tell us what our collection percentage is. So even though you say, this is your taxable value times your rate yields this amount of property tax, that doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna collect it all. So they give, based on the history in the county, you've set it at 98%, or they set it.
Right. When we did the math, the double check, it was a little less than 98%. But on his, on the notice of public hearing on tax increase that Jeff Law put out, I can pull it up really quickly here. Oh, maybe. Participate. Let's see. So on here, this dollar amount isn't 100%, it's a little less based on a calculation that his system uses for our collection rate, which is somewhere around 98%.
So if someone went in and added the property tax from Fund 10, Fund the 58, which is the library, and Fund 50, which is road and bridge, it's not gonna equal the total amount that they would, if they took the taxable value times the rate, the 30, whatever it was up there a minute ago.
Where I have that. So based on 100% at the 3.09, it yields 29,738,618. And in the proposed budget that was published, I just used the number that Jeff Law provided us on this notice, so that the numbers would match and everyone would see congruency there, it all pulls together.
So on this one at the no new revenue rate, the maintenance and operation at 100% is 24.6, but what we have in our budget is 23.9, and the reason for that is because it's at 90%. Okay, I just want to make sure everyone knows why that number is the same.
So they haven't seen yours yet though.
Okay.
So this is what she's referring to. This number here is what she's referring to.
And this includes the matrix, which is for the employee, which is at basically 3%, right?
Yeah, pretty close to it, yeah.
Do you think, I was just looking at your court reports of the sales tax and the miscellaneous or mixed beverage. Now, this is gonna be little tweaks, so this is gonna be tedious, you guys, but this is where we are right now to try to close the gap. We're sitting at 195,000 right now on miscellaneous, sorry, I keep saying miscellaneous, mixed beverage tax. Do you think that we have any room to like go up to maybe 180 expected? So that would help a little. And other commissioner, judge, having, think you're okay with that? And then on sales tax, I know we bumped it to 6.5, but it looks now like it's continuing to trend at a high rate, so we'll probably end at 7.5. Wouldn't anyone object to 6.7 instead of 6.5? tax assessor collector. Please. She's at this, on the reports that we got for report on Tuesday, that department is at 2.4. I don't know, just adding 50,000 to that with that. I'm just looking for ways to offset the expenses that we have.
What was the 224, end of August or end of July?
2.486, it was as of the budget we got, or the budget report we got today.
As of, September 4th.
Okay, so that does that drag any? I mean, is that
I'm sure that it's in arrears a month.
right? Okay, so I don't think that that's unreasonable to anticipate that probably.
You're probably okay with 50,000.
And then environmental, she's at, that department's at 362 now. Any room there? It's at 325.
Is that relative to growth?
It is to some extent, yes.
The
And
more,
that,
yeah, the more building, the more septic permits. And I was just gonna say 330, but I'm not looking for a huge increase.
Where are they? I wouldn't mess with that.
Today, they're at 362. Was that 325?
That's totals, but I wouldn't mess with that one.
Okay,
There's no way to nail that one,
okay.
in my opinion.
Okay, interest, we went up some, but,
I don't think we can look at that as continuing either, that interest.
yeah, I guess it kind of depends on how those funds are. If it's locked in at 6 months, but I think most of those are in a day-to-day. And I think right now we're over 5% on that.
we are over 5%.
But that could change tomorrow if they.
Yeah, they'll give you that, it's interesting too, it's short term, they won't give you any long-term stuff.
Right, yeah.
And that's because I did, in the bank a while ago, short-term 3 months is 4.2, go up to 4.7.
Yeah, it's going
You
down.
wanna go a year though, it's like, man, we're not gonna do that.
Exactly.
They don't wanna stick their neck out.
Yeah, one thing to remember is, okay, so today we're at 2.3 on interest, is that the interest is going up because the funds that were borrowed for the fire apparatus, that is, the part that we haven't paid yet is in accounts gaining interest, so that's why it's another reason why it's more.
But that's in the INS stuff then, right? That money that,
This is strictly general fund, but I think it is being held there. Also, when you don't have as much in reserves, your interest is gonna go down too.
Right.
Oh, that's true. Okay, good point. Okay, we'll leave that. Okay, so the transfer from prior fund to, well, I guess that changed a little bit based on the changes we've made. Oops, there it is. Okay, so do you want to explain this one?
On the EMS thing?
Or just why it's $5 million?
Okay, part of that, we were kind of looking at, okay, we're talking about doing a stipend this year for EMS. My thought on that is let's do that out of fund balance. We'll bring it into the budget, but we'll pay for it out of fund balance, because I kind of anticipate this being a one-time thing. Either, we go through the hospital district to fund EMS, or there's a lot of hot and heavy talk about the SB 22 type of situation for rural EMSs being passed through the legislature. So I think that probably wouldn't be a terrible thing to just plan on that being a one-time expense. And let's pull that out of fund balance. And then, if something happens, if the hospital district if that tax installation or whatever does come through, let that fund EMS, and we'll pull this back and not fund them through the county. Let it fund through the hospital district. So, my thought was leave that, so that could justify, $500,000 of that fund balance transfer. Another thing that I got to looking at and thinking about is at the end of the year, you do have several funds throughout that have, you're gonna have $500 left here, $1,000 left here, supplies, travel budgets, all these different budgets that come back in as unspent expenses. Right now, we're at this last report, we're at unspent at about 6 million, or was it 5 after this one?
It's 5 something.
Okay, so we're at 5 something. We still have salaries coming out of that we'll expect that to be around $2 million or so. We've got $1 million or 1.1 million in capital expenditures that have not been delivered yet. So that'll have to, if that remains the same, if these aren't delivered and we don't write checks for it, that'll have to roll over into next year's fund balance also. So I think there's some justification or explanation for how we can use the fund balance as an offset. And I think that this has all been part of it in the past, maybe not specifically stated that way, but the fund balance transfer in has been some of that. It's been the unspent expense side and things that have not been paid for yet in capital.
So here's a couple of observations for me is looking, and of course I'm hoping this sheet that I'm looking at is relevant. I think it is, but we're showing a difference from 2020. This is the general fund. I'm not talking about the others. The others I think will be a component, will be a factor of that. But we've gone from 2022 to 2024, 2 years, we have an increase in the budget of $5,306, according to this document that this is about 6 or 8 days old. The more disturbing part of this is that the differential between last year and this year, just on general fund, is $3,153,000. And that's a substantial increase, in my opinion, from one year to the next when we hadn't had that much. I don't know what happened. I do know that ARPA money is causing, it caused us an unrealistic budget before, and now the chickens are coming home on ARPA, and I don't know if that's a factor here or not. I still haven't got a good picture of that. But I look at, I'm going to give some overall information here. The city of Granbury just passed a tax rate, and they kept the rate the same as last year. Same rate. Now, what does that mean? It's still, since the average home went up a little bit, like $4,000, I think it went about $5,000 maybe, according to another sheet in here. I got too many sheets.
Yeah, from 330 to 330.
Yeah, they went up about $5,000. It still means even at the same rate of last year, you're still going to pay another $10 or $12 out of pocket. The school district, here's what's really bothersome on this tax cycle, and GISD has stuck it to us in my opinion. They passed a rate that's going to be $339 per average taxpayer more out of pocket. $339. The city's going, if you live in the city, they've gone up $12. There's another $12. If we maintain the same tax rate as last year, we will still bring in more money, but it's still going to cost the taxpayers another $12 or $15 per taxpayer. So even if we go back to the rate we passed last year, it's still going to cost the taxpayer more money. If we go to the no new revenue rate, which is below what we did last year, it's going to mean even a bigger hit on what this proposed budget is that we've got right now that we're working on. And I'm gonna throw this in now, because we'll come back to this, but this is a Texas tax code. Chapter 26.05, tax rate. The governing body must adopt a tax rate before the latter of September 30th or the 60th day after the date the certified appraisal roll was received. We got that on July 27th, so that's earlier. So September 30th is the relevant date. And here's what happens if it don't happen. If the governing body of the taxing unit does not adopt a tax rate before the date required by subsection A, which is September the 30th, the tax rate for the taxing unit for that tax year is the lower of the no new revenue rate, which we talked about is a little bit less than what we taxed last year, or the rate we charged last year. So that's a default. So if we don't get something agreed upon or we can live with by the 30th of September, then by default and by law, it'll go to the no new revenue rate. Then we're going to have to pass. Then we got to pass a budget that comports with that tax rate. So I'm putting that out there because I'm not, I just think this budget we got that we started working with is way out of line. And we definitely need to get the scissors out and work on it. And we got a short time, as Commissioner Samuelson said, we got a short time to get there. But we got several new employees. I object to that right now, and this, it doesn't matter which department they're coming in. So I'll start out with that for me, and I'll turn it back over to somebody else.
Because that's about it from the on the revenue side, as many tweaks. Can you go back up to the top? I just want to, this kind of goes along with what Commissioner Eagle was saying. When you look at so if you look at 2025 proposed, the 2024 and the 2023. Okay, this sheet it has 24.
You want me to look at?
Oh, it's this one. Yeah, no, that was right.
What, it was right?
Yeah, I was just looking at the wrong column. Yeah, so this was what we budgeted, or the court budgeted 2023, 24.9. This year, we're at 25.6, and the no new revenue rate is 23.9. So that has caused the two of us that have been working on this together some consternation as to why, if our total market value in the county, as Mr. Jordan, Constable Jordan said, the no new revenue rate is coming in less. So the no new revenue rate is about 2 cents less than the current rate, right? And the current rate 0.2862.
The current rate is 0.282622.
Yeah, 0.282622. So just to point that out, that we're working towards a reduced property tax receipt, I guess is the word. So do you want to go department by department, or?
We can, I'm still trying to figure out why that number is that much.
Lower.
Especially if you look at the differential in appraised values, 334 or 36 million difference.
Plus the new properties.
Well, does that not count that?
Well, see, I don't understand why it doesn't equal this. I mean, if this is what we've actually brought in, why does the no new revenue rate not yield this? I mean, right now, it's only $300,000 difference. But then you should have about $500,000 at that rate with the new construction.
Is it because you cut the tax rate?
Or the
What you're
homestead
talking-
exemption, the homestead exemption did.
That's where it is.
See, that doesn't make sense, that doesn't make sense to me, but I mean, I hear what you're saying, and we talked about that, but
Well, you lose.
I don't see that 10% homestead exemption being having that much impact. Maybe I'm wrong.
But shouldn't you still have the same revenue? The point with the no new revenue is that you have the same revenue as you did last year, regardless of what the rate did, regardless of what the valuation did. So if you brought in X number of dollars last year, this year your value went up here, well, your rate has to come out here to yield that number. So even if you did the homestead exemption and brought the value down, then the tax rate should balance to where you got the same number as you did last year.
Yeah.
Theoretically.
Yeah, so going back to the transfer from prior fund balance, you're saying that 1.2 million of that is what is not gonna be spent in this current year budget for capital that's coming up back?
Well, I don't know, that was a question. Is that where that is, or is that not even figured in, whatever we're gonna have to carry over from prior year?
So Fund 55 is self-contained, so that's separate than the general fund. So there's likely somewhere around 1 or 2 million that we won't spend, that we have allocated to be spent. So I suppose if that's what you're asking, then that would be embedded in this number, that 5 million. But the general fund is separate than the Fund 10. So the general fund is all by itself. And then 55 is all by itself. So-
But is that, okay, so if there's 1.2 million of approved but not paid for capital expenses in this budget,
And that would be in 55, not in Fund 10 here.
so then the transfers,
But it's almost $2 million that's earmarked already for expenditures.
one point,
That's the big deal.
1.2 million.
Well, I guess kind of my point was, I think that was a part of the budget in 55 in the past years that was just automatically, I think, just Becky figured the offset in there automatically without that being kind of differentiated and lined out as such. In other words, you go into the year and it's like, well, we really only have, you know, let's just pick a number, say 2.5 million in the capital budget, because 700,000 of that is actually rolled over from the year before. So 700,000 of that transfer in from prior year is to pay for that. So that ends up being non-allocated in or previously allocated in Fund 55 and paid for out of fund balance.
You know,
Okay.
we've reduced the tax rate every year since I've been on the bench.
Yeah.
Been every year. And what's happened is that we've had to increase the fund balance to offset that decrease. You understand? We went from all that, it just goes up. It's a pretty big hit out of that fund balance because everything is more expensive. I mean, this is what I don't get, like with the sheriff's department up here. You know, we had to come up here and pay that non-comp time, $150,000. All that's gonna get done is get worse and worse and worse because he doesn't have enough deputies. Those deputies have to come in and they work and they get comp time. But there's not enough deputies that they can ever take the time off, which I want them to get the time off because they need it to kind of
be with their families and get for their mental health to do it. So, you know, boy, I tell you one thing, if you don't have good law enforcement in the county, you don't have a county. That's why I'm always real big about giving enough deputies. We saw what happened last fall, remember that? The deputies, I mean, you talk about transparency, I mean, the public was up in arms about the fact that we were losing deputies, and the deputies were planning on leaving, and they were going to different parties. We were gonna lose a bunch of deputies. They had already gotten jobs and if they didn't get their wage, they were gonna leave.
I think that was 2 years ago.
That is, to me, that's very, very serious, because, and in this climate, you know, we need more and more law enforcement. You just can't do without that. And so, the sheriff put in for what, 2 investigators and 2 patrol deputies, is that what it is? That's 4 people. You know, I'm sitting back here looking at, I wasn't a criminal lawyer, but I've been around criminals all my life because of this, but I'll tell you one thing. I don't want to be second guessing the sheriff here about what he needs to run his department to protect the citizens of Hood County. And I keep on saying this, is that the city of Granbury, if you look at the map of Hood County, it's this big, and we got the city of Granbury is this big, and the only thing that's happened, we got 1 city marshal in Toller.
2 now, and
2.
my band. Yes,
Oh,
sir.
okay,
Love
well,
enough over there.
that, I don't think it's really making a real big dent in all the crime that's going on in the whole county up there, and I know all those law enforcement there. We got the sheriff has got to patrol this whole county, and I keep saying, if we got a real catastrophe over in Crescent, and then we got a real catastrophe over in Waipan, that sheriff he's spread too thin to protect our citizens here. I don't like trying to second guess Roger Deeds. He's now the longest serving sheriff. I think everybody knows my position. I'm strong law enforcement, because without law enforcement, we don't have a county. So I hate to be second guessing Sheriff Deeds up here, because if we ever, and every year that goes by, you can see it all over the United States. I'm glad I live in Texas. I'm glad I live in Granbury, Texas, as opposed to living in Dallas, Texas, or Houston, or San Antonio, too. But and the reason we do that is because we have a respect for our law enforcement, and we gotta, to say that we're gonna keep reducing the tax rate when everybody here goes to the grocery store and goes to the service station and fills up and knows what's happening, it doesn't take a rocket scientist just to feel that. I mean,
What is our benefit package compared to other counties? And I say that because the private sector is cutting back on benefits. Because the kids of today that are looking for jobs, they don't care about 30 years, 40 years from now. They want a bigger paycheck. So how does our county compare to surrounding counties in benefits?
We're excellent.
We're way above them?
Yes, they
So
have.
can we cut some benefits?
I think that would be.
For new employees. I mean, they get this at Marquis. New employees
what
didn't
we-
get the benefits that old employees have. So,
For insurance, what we currently have, we just switched on October 1st. The new insurance plan is 0 deductible, 0 out of pocket, and it's the same premium, and the employee doesn't pay for their own. Now, if they carry their family members, they pay some premium, but that was a, how do you say it, no cost to us.
Yeah.
And the
I'm just,
retirement plan, what the county pays in is, I checked when I first came to see, okay, what can we do to retain, because we were losing a lot of dispatchers, a lot of,
But I don't think
And
they're
we
really
were-
worried about benefits. They're worried about a paycheck.
that's true. So there are some that would rather have the
I mean,
money
so
now than the
maybe-
money later, but then there's
Yeah.
some that rather,
So-
they like the way to save for retirement.
Maybe think about benefits for everybody that's working here now, and then different benefits for every new hire.
Can we even do that? I don't think so.
I don't think.
I mean, they do in the private sector. That's what I don't know. I mean, I do know they do that in the private sector.
You know how complicated it is already?
Yeah, well.
What are you trying to do? Give us another algorithm to work out here? I'll tell you what was really happening though. I mean, really, I really have to hand it to Melissa Welburn here. She's got these guys that worked out, just like Commissioner Samuelson was saying, with this new health benefit package that we got. Because what we were proposing as an increase for the wages across, let's say, a 2% or just a 2%, that would not have paid for the increase in the cost of insurance
Oh, I
that a clerk
know.
would have had to pay.
I know.
It would-
My husband worked at Lockheed, and we got raises every year that didn't cover
That's
our
right.
insurance payments.
That's
So we were going backwards.
That's
So,
right, that's exactly right.
I understand that.
Yeah, and this is what I'm saying, with everything that's costed so much, how can the citizens of Hood County say, hey, we want to keep on cutting the tax rate? I just don't see that. And you can see it from 2019. That's when I took office up here. It's 2019, and the tax rate has gone down every year. Every year it's gone down. That's great.
But
The only
that's
thing
because, that's
that's
what
good.
revenue.
But let me tell you what
housing-
happened, is that fund balance, that savings that we had up there, it's increased significantly to offset that. Just because the tax rate went down, doesn't mean that the county's expenses has gone down. They haven't. They've all gone up too. That's the whole point, and everything is up. The gas, cars, what we
Groceries.
used to buy, the squad cars that everybody needs, holy smoke.
Insurance.
Insurance, everything. I mean, it's trying to reach something here, but, the tax rate, when you're talking about this proposed tax rate of 0.309, on the average household, from what it was last year or this year, it goes up about $100, a little over $100. And you can say, well, that's a lot of money, but for what it does, that's not a whole lot over a whole year, I don't think. It's just really not, and that's what you gotta look at, folks, is that, when you go to the service station to fill up with gas, or you go to the grocery store, let me tell you this, I never did much grocery store shopping in my life, and now I go every once in a while, and I am amazed that everything I pick up is $5. You go to the produce, you pick up a bag of grapes, it's $5 or something. You pick up an apple and 2 oranges, it's $5. I mean, it's almost everything is $5. I'm starting to notice it, and it's just my wife and myself. These guys, young people that have 3 and 4 kids, I just don't see how they're doing it. Right, Faye, you're looking at yourself up there. I don't see how they can do it. It's heart-rending. But just to increase the property tax a little bit to run the county, folks,
It's less than $10 a month.
You're talking about the
Yeah,
same
it's
people
less
that
than-
are.
It's less than $10 a
But
month.
these are also the people that
Yeah.
are having to pay those increases
Right.
at the grocery store.
Yeah.
And one of the things trending from what I've been able to find, we're still increasing fund balance here.
We are.
Even drawing that new fund balance in to offset it, the fund balance is still going up. And we're actually above the policy that we passed.
well, that's because we reduced it from 6 months down to 4 months. And that's another thing.
you know, they keep saying on the news, I almost don't like to watch the news anymore, Cotton Howell. It just scares me. Because they keep talking about this recession that's here, and that does concern me. And the dollar, because of the BRIC dollar, the Brazil, Russia, India, and China currency, as opposed to the dollar currency, replacing it as the travel currency, that scares the heck out of me. And if we get something, we may wish that we'd have had that 6 months deal rather than 4 months. Because that's not, I mean, you know, when you have to keep moving things around, this is like that simple budget. It's like playing three-dimensional chess. You move one thing and you've affected a bunch of other stuff. I mean, it really is.
Well, I think right now our fund balance is around 9 months or something.
That's more than that. It's like,
Yes,
If I may, one thing that you can, first of all, about 76% of your budget, people, and people deliver the service. If you don't have good people, you'll never have good service. It doesn't matter if they're fixing your roads or the law enforcement out there or emergency man, it doesn't matter. If you don't have the right people in the right spots, you're never gonna have what is a great organization. So we have to leave the people alone. What if, in your capital improvement things that you're buying, if you take a certain percentage of those out of your regular budget and put them in a special projects fund, Fund 55 or whatever your fund is, and as revenues come in, you're conservative about how much revenue you're gonna get. You know, if collections are up 1% on sales tax or anything else, you're gonna get more revenue. As about mid-year or 3 or 4 months in, you see a trend and things are better, then you fund by priority those capital items that you rolled over in the special projects fund. So you keep your actual line item budget at a level that matches your effective rate, whatever you want it to be, and then you roll some of those over, whether it's patrol cars or an extra this or an extra that, a new backhoe, whatever, and then you fund those along as revenues come in. Either if they're below forecast, then you still got your budget and it's good. If revenues are above, then you start funding those things that are on the wish list by priority per department. And so that way you keep the integrity of your budget, and you keep your tax rate where you want it. But one thing you got to consider, our tax rate in this county is very low, very low. Taxes in general, whether it's school or anybody else, it's very low in this county. When you're growing, you have growing pains and you have needs, and it costs some money to deliver those services. And as you amplify those services to cover more territory, more customers, I guarantee you Roger's busier, because with more people you have more crime, with more cars up and down the streets, and we have a ton. The mileage that we have to maintain is unbelievable compared to most counties. So we have a lot of things that are unique to us, but to maintain that, we can't ignore the fact that it's going to cost us a little more the more people we get. And that's just, it's a fact of life. People don't look at their tax bill and say, my gosh, look what the county did. They look at it and say, my tax bill is $3,000. They don't look at it and say, the county did this or the school board did this. They'll look at school always because it's higher, because it's a lot more money. They're not going to pick on you for a small increase if services are good and they're satisfied. They'll pick on you if services decline, I promise you. And that's, you've got to adopt a policy of we've got to maintain superior services. And how you do that is up to the 5 of y'all to decide. I mean,
well, let me tell you, if you recall last fall of the deal, it really was because it's like somebody said here, I don't know who it was, all the other counties were poaching our sheriff's department. They were open, they were doing it, I mean, significantly poaching them. We were training them, and after they got trained by us, they go to the academy or whatever, come back out and work here for a year. Then we had Johnson County and Parker County, and they were offering them significantly more money than what we were paying them, and they were leaving.
well, the job market's changed. We're very portable because people that, if you look at Parker County and all the growth that they've had, they're just like us. And they've had to increase what they pay to match Metroplex salaries. And it's coming to us hard and fast that we have to do much the same. If we offer a great quality of life, we get some bites because of that. But the realism is the market has gotten bigger as far as the salary pool, what we have to engage in. And we have to recognize that. And if you want good people to deliver great service, you're just gonna have to step up, and that's just it. And it's unfortunate, and it's a burden on taxpayers to a certain extent, but they get the benefit of what you do.
Yeah, it was actually 2 years ago when that huge 15% or so increase to retain the sheriff department. That was in October of '22, right before I took office in '23. Then last year, during this budget process, the Commissioners Court added 6 more positions to the sheriff's office, and that really has, the turnover rate now compared to 2 years ago is, I mean,
But you've seen the benefit of what it does when you get competitive.
When you combine the salary increases that happened 2 years ago with the benefit package that Hood County has with the, I mean, if you are a person who normally meets your deductible, you just got a $5,000 a year raise because now you have no deductible and no out-of-pocket. So that is a big attractor with those benefits. So it's, I mean, I haven't seen a job posted in the last 3 weeks for any, I mean, do we have one now? I don't know.
I'm full staff with
we have
on the deputy side.
full staff on deputies, full staff on
We
jail.
have one position posted currently.
But it's not in the dispatch jail or?
No, it's not in the sheriff's office.
Yeah, so we've been able, with those increases in the budget that was passed last year, with the changes that were made last year to the matrix, we've been able to retain good employees, great employees in the sheriff's department, so.
Actually, over the last 3 years, you know, we went heavy up on the dispatch, we went heavy up on the jail. We've been heavy on the sheriff's department over the last 3 years of bringing up to get competitive. And, you know, I guess I'll sit here and listen to some of this and I'm going, so where does this end? I mean, we've been working hard to get the salaries up, and we've been doing a good job, and I think, and we're still looking at bumping people for another $100 plus out of their pocket based on this rate, that I think we can, I just believe that there's places to whittle on this budget, and maybe we don't need more people this year. Maybe we don't. Maybe we can live one more without any more new hires this year, based on the economy right now.
The telltale is we're retaining the employees. If we're retaining the employees and we haven't had jobs posted for quite a while, I think that tells us that our benefits and our salary are where they should be.
Well, like I
And
said,
that's before this budget. So, and there's gonna be some changes.
like you say, when this new insurance kicks in, there's 0 deductible. 0. Go find you an insurance policy where you got that.
Yeah, and that's for every member of your.
0 copay.
And that's for every member.
Prescriptions.
Yeah, for your family.
Those are
So
valuable. I mean, they really are. They're valuable. But the problem is, if the market goes up 3% and you don't, and then next year the market goes up 3% more, you're 6% behind.
Yeah.
And you have to really, that's what you have to guard against, because it's cumulative. And you find out, one year you have to raise salaries 15% to be, and then there's a big hit. So you have to be reasonable about it.
See, you know, if we lose people, regardless of whether in the sheriff's department or anywhere else, and if we're continually losing people in certain areas, that costs more money, because training costs money. You know, if you've got an employee that works 6 months, 9 months, or a year, and then goes somewhere else, and you gotta start all over again, that's expensive. Training, you know, retraining a new employee is expensive.
So let's go, do you want to go through the other changes that were on the expense side? So we didn't really change a lot, other than this budget that's up there has the salary matrix that Kevin's been working with Stephanie on. and with the sheriff. So, you wanna go to animal control, or which one do you want? Which one
Well,
do you
yeah,
want?
animal control, what we talked about doing there, they've been struggling with a part-time, person to go in and clean kennels and stuff. It's difficult, especially having somebody staffed on weekends and holidays, and they asked that person to be over to a full-time position. And that seemed like a very reasonable request, so part of that increase there with the animal control is another full-time. Converting a part-time to a full-time position to help keep the animal control clean there, so.
So the part-time went from 17,004 to 0 to offset the addition of,
Half
37.
or a third of what the employee, half to a third of what the employee, the new full-time's gonna cost.
yeah, but with benefits.
Yes.
But other than that, there's nothing, if you look down the list, there's nothing else that changed in animal control except for, the.
Am I looking at an old,
Yeah, look
I'm
at-
seeing an extra officer on here.
No, you look at this one that's,
See, it changes, it's like the stock market, it changes quicker than you.
yeah. Yep. So the total for animal control, Commissioner Eagle, is, the total for the department is $555, $599. Is that what's showing up there too?
And there's a significant,
Well, so I have it rounded up on the next column, but yeah.
555, 559.
Mm-hmm.
there's an increase in the incentive pay because that's the new matrix working in for time on the job. Correct? We put that in the incentive pay?
In longevity, yeah.
Okay.
And incentive pay is like certificate pay.
Yeah, it's the
They
same.
have some of the GLs are not labeled the same, but that's what, in essence, it is. I believe.
The
I
longevity
think
went,
that actually was the on-call pay,
Could have been, yeah.
so.
Animal, yeah, they do have on-call, so.
the longevity went from 5,007 to,
Okay,
you're on the wrong line.
you know,
So the net change on animal control then, in summary, is taking the part-time to full-time, that's it?
That's it, other than.
And the, whatever the
3%.
percentages of
Yeah,
3% or what have you.
it's about 3%. So-
Do you want me to remove that
I'm
incentive?
trying to figure out why officers is only a 0.05% increase.
I can't look at your matrix at this moment.
Right.
Probably because.
Oh, it's in the longevity, okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, all right, that's where the
Yeah.
increase kind of ends up
Right.
working out as in the longevity. Okay,
Yeah, so
all right, sorry,
longevity
that's-
was 5,600, now it's 14,700. So some of that goes to the employees in that department on the basis of how long they've been there.
And I think that the incentive pay does come significantly down because that was the on-call pay. It was like $2,400 per employee per year. So that, we can actually remove the incentive.
Like all the way out or reduce it?
Let me dig in on that and have to get back.
Okay,
with
so
you.
there's a-
I think it's all the way, I think that's 7.
So did the new officer get taken out?
Yes,
Okay,
that, yeah.
okay, so that's almost 60,000 off of that,
Yeah, so they're only gonna do that hybrid kennel tech person who's gonna help with the cleaning.
So you're thinking that 14,400 is too high?
Yeah, that's 6 employees with the on-call pay. And that on-call pay is now,
Gone.
well, it's still 5,200 for the on-call pay. So I guess that incentive pay could be 5,200. Okay.
So are you saying that incentive pay is 5,200 instead of 14?
Yeah,
Oh, you just want her to change it now?
she did.
Oh, sorry. Not looking around. Okay, so now it goes to, so now what's the total?
550.
Sorry, 544,757. I have a rounding column from my,
Okay, so that's animal control.
they reduced oh, yours may be a little bit behind. But
Yeah, mine's almost 3 days old, so I'm sure I'm just kidding.
it's probably 5 versions behind. You're not too far off, honestly.
Okay.
So incentive pay was reduced.
Thank you.
Took the officer out. Maybe the rest should be pretty
Are
safe.
you going to see Brian? Tell him I'll be there when I can.
Well, it ends at 6 o'clock, so I imagine you're still gonna be sitting here at 6 o'clock.
So the,
I won't, they may be. Maybe they will, I won't.
so the difference from last year to this year in animal control is 30,527, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, sorry. I just got it. I'm glad you're doing that. Okay. In general admin, we did change, Stephanie and I looked at this, on contract services, that was over the history of the years she looked at that had not been used to, what, more than 50,000-ish. So we took some out of there. And then, same with the general admin cost. Reduce that. We already talked about why contingent.
That contingency number, that's just a journal entry, so to speak, right?
Well, yeah, we moved it from capital projects over to contingency, and then you'll see capital projects was reduced to offset it.
Yeah, so the, are you looking up there? Are you able to see the difference in?
He's looking at that one right there, contingency general.
Okay. So we took the, contract services, I don't know, last year it was 150, I don't know what it was in the prior budget, but it's now 100. And then the general admin, it was 12,700, so that was,
Well, we got 2 payments left on Crescent?
3.
3?
and the HCAT service fees may go down, but we won't know that for a little bit. Nothing changed on the rest of the page. Oh, I was gonna ask Chad if he had any, I was gonna ask him if one of these departments was one of the ones he had a question about.
I think nothing has changed, personnel,
Personnel.
where you are, 4450.
Anyone else have any comments on the departments up?
I'm going through, this is the order I've got, but like I say, I've got an old sheet apparently, but county court at law looked all right, county court, and the judge, the court, the district judge, I didn't see what, I mean, there was a little bit of difference in the court coordinator, above 3%, but not much, and I guess you probably fixed that. The indigent defense attorney's fees, that went up a pretty good bit, but are they just, that's the DA, right?
Also county court of law
Oh, it's county court of law?
as well, yeah.
So does that, I mean, an increase sound about right to you?
It's 43.
They're being appointed in
Oh,
the court.
Okay,
That came straight from them.
all right.
So that, that went up. The attorney fees and the CPS cases both went up quite a bit.
Where did you wanna go next, Kevin?
Oh, let's see where we were on that. I had 4450 personnel. And we may have.
Well, that's
already-
insurance, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pretty
Yeah, we
much.
may have already adjusted that. Medical reimbursement, 4450.
What were we gonna?
We were gonna put that in the insurance line. Medical insurance line.
Because, okay, so we should explain that since we just said it was an even trade. We have 340 employees that are eligible for insurance, but not all take the insurance. So we thought now, we anticipate now that it's zero, it's a much more attractive plan, that those that aren't taking it might decide to take it. So we had to, that is the contingency for that additional cost to the county for employee insurance.
So leave that alone.
Yeah.
Is it? What?
That's what we, yeah.
Explain that again.
Okay, so.
I thought the insurance was the same cost as it was last
If you
year.
have the exact same number of
Oh,
employees.
okay, all right, got you, all right.
But because,
I'm tracking now.
yeah,
Okay,
take $816 premium times 12 months times 20 employees, it adds up fast.
yeah.
So what you're saying though is we don't need we don't need the 75,000 for what we were using it for before to help with deductibles.
That's
We
correct.
need to have a contingency in case, so it may or may not get used.
That's correct. We may not use it all.
But we already have had open enrollment, so do you
We
know?
have, and I'm guessing 330.
330, so that's more than we
And
have
that's
this year.
rough, because we don't have our numbers final just yet, but thinking around 330. And we're still hunting down a few people, but, I'm thinking 330. And a lot depends on what y'all may do with the current upcoming budget, if you add anyone to that. But
Gotcha.
Okay, district clerk, we already talked about that. Is that on the line?
So should we put that 75,000 in the health insurance line? So we don't have to do a transfer on it later?
Well, last year, I don't think that it was fully funded to support the numbers that we were going to budget for.
Okay.
But we lucked out because we never were fully staffed. But like we've talked about here today, past 3 months, we've pretty well stayed fully staffed.
So do you wanna, would you like for Stephanie to move the $75,000 into the health insurance general?
I think so. I think just to be on the safe side. And again, we may not use all of that, but I believe when Stephanie and I talked earlier this week, we decided on about 3 million, 3.3, I believe is what we looked at, yeah.
Okay. Glad you're here.
Who?
You.
Okay. What do you need to know?
Looking back over the past, both JP2 and JP3, when they were new, there wasn't a great big huge bump in the education and travel. That was we had a pretty significant increase, and of course, you know, understanding why, but just looking back over the history, there wasn't, they didn't use up that budget. It was, they stayed below the two, I think they were below 2,000 on that. And even with the supplies, they were relatively low. So,
Yeah, neither JP3 when he was new or JP2 when they were new used, or that last year or the year we're in have used anywhere near the 8,000 that was being requested. So it's more right around 3 to 5. I mean, more really 3, but we got 5 between the supplies and education is 25, which is 5,000, which is really already $1,000 more than either JP2 or 3 used when they were new.
All I put in there was I knew there would be enough to retool. Okay? everything's gotta be bought new, everything's got my name on it. Mine not there anymore, okay? Now, I know when I went to baby judge school, I went to Austin, I went to San Antonio, I went back to Austin. Then it was a legislative update year, so I had to go back for a legislative update. I just put plenty in there so that the new judge ain't having to move money around to try to get that office running again, okay? Now, I don't think that she's gonna use her travel money running around and around in the county on call, like some people do. But the other thing is, you know, I think that maybe some of that travel money, some of those schools and stuff like that came out of the technology fund and didn't come out of the travel fund because they were expecting that they were gonna use travel fund money to run around and around the county on call. So,
Technology fund? What technology? What technology fund?
we have a technology fund
Oh,
that every piece of paper that comes in that county, there's a $3 charge on, and it goes into that fund. That fund's to be used as technology or for education or for necessary part-time or temporary help.
okay, I thought you meant the IT technology fund, so that was like, what?
No, that's our technology
The other
fund.
fund that's back here with the technology.
So where's that?
It's one of these,
It's a special fund back in there.
yeah, like,
It's the same thing as the court security fund. Not the same thing, but it's a separate, all by itself, all alone fund.
so like Constable 1, the education expense is Fund 109, but I'm looking, oh, here it is, JP. Is it this 108, the justice admin costs, there's $1,650 in there.
I actually think y'all took, when y'all moved all of their technology stuff over to IT, they used to have like $15,000 in a technology fund. And when y'all moved a lot of the technology over to IT, I think y'all took that from them and moved more into their education or something like that. Because speaking from a JP3 perspective, we used to use that technology fund to go to our classes and stuff instead of using our education and travel, so Judge Quinn could still use that money for on-call, like he was saying.
Huh.
Because technology fund was still, you were going and learning, but using technology in that, so we were allowed to use that fund
Yeah, there's the.
for our classes.
There's $1,650 in Fund 108 for each of the JPs. Which I don't know if that's.
Okay, wait a second. So, what used to be our technology fund has got moved out? That's our money.
That's,
Well,
This-
it's not listed, that's what I was saying, it's not listed.
I don't know.
huh.
That's the truth.
I mean, that's a special fund that we
Yeah,
pay into.
Yeah, that's.
It's not general revenue. It can't just be used willy-nilly.
It's like the
Yeah,
county
and
clerk technology fund.
Correct.
Right.
Have we, do we need to correct
I don't know.
a mechanism there? Is
I'm just saying, I mean, I don't know. You asked me how come I put so much money in there,
Yeah.
because I got a new there's a new judge coming in there, and I don't want her underfunded, and I don't want her having to run over to Stephanie's office every day going, can I move this money out of this over to this? That's why I put all that in there.
yeah. Well, maybe that's something we need to look at, because we may be,
Yeah.
that fund is very likely earmarked for something.
Yeah,
Chad
there
Jordan does
could
it that way
be.
too, I think, with his technology.
She may have the money, it just may not be in that budget.
Okay.
That's what it's.
Well, they got it listed here, 11,000 for each JP,
Where are you looking?
Department 6181.
Okay.
Says right here, Justice Court tech fee.
There you go.
Okay, there you go.
There you go. So,
It's in the 075,
oh,
6181. Actually, there's a revenue fund there too.
right. There's $11,000 in there, technology fund, so.
Okay.
You're good.
You know, I'm just saying that, you know,
Thank you.
sometimes that those type things, schools, you know, and the other thing is, though, you know, you can use a technology fund for schools from the training center. Okay, if TAC has the substance abuse thing, if they have the impaired driving thing and all that, then you're supposed to use travel to go to it. Still education that's beneficial to your office, but you have to have your travel money available to go to it. So that's why that money, those expenses get bounced around between those, you know, and again, you got a new judge coming in. I don't know if she's gonna wanna go to the indigency school. I don't know if she wants to go to the impaired driving symposium or some of those things that TAC put on. So, you know.
It's, like I said, I'm glad you're here. I think there's a lot of real good information
You know,
that came
y'all
out
got,
of this discussion. So,
you know, y'all got, it's just like Chad Jordan said, y'all got a rough job. And I don't take it for granted either, but it's a lot easier to have money there available to you to use the way you need to use it than it is to be over there at the auditor's office every month or so going, okay, let me pull this out of this and put it over here, and then it's gotta go on the agenda, and y'all gotta take a look at it and go, how come this person's moving money around all the time? Don't they know what they're doing? That was my only objective.
Yeah, I got you.
So that we can go to the next.
Sorry I'm late. Being busy.
All right. We just.
Good.
Do anyone else have any? I don't think we didn't change in election admin, all of those are still the same.
Yeah.
The next one I have is, I have the facility maintenance. Do you have anything before that? Does anyone?
Which one is it?
Facility maintenance, 5100. This is just remember a couple courts ago, Leland asked for a part-time employee to the end of the fiscal year. Well, he would like, there's another person going out on FMLA, and so he would like to have some funds in his part-time, but he said he could reduce janitorial supplies. It's only $4,040 part-time funds to the end of the year, so he was asking for a line item transfer, and I was like, we're setting the budget, so if you need money in your part-time, we would just do it as part of this, rather than do a line item transfer. Do y'all agree with that? Okay.
Yeah, I wanna go, something I've got earmarked as tax assessor collector, and I may have an old one now,
Okay.
probably do.
So,
Because I'm looking at a 17.5% increase over the 2-year periods.
oh, that's the one, right?
So, and it looks like, well, I'm just trying to figure out what happened here. You know, are they asking for a new employee?
If you don't mind, before we move to that, what do you want me to do with the one? You want me to add
$4,000 and, it was $4,038, so if you wanna make it that exact, or make it $44,050, or whatever number, just so it's 4,038 is what the number he told me.
Okay, so take that from janitorial supplies
Mhm.
and put it in budget, okay, got it. He was asking me if the court approved that for this fiscal, which we did, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, then tax.
It looks like maybe that change happened last year.
I don't think they asked for anything this year, if my memory serves.
Yeah. Compared to last year, it's a small change. The huge change came from the year before. Apparently they added some there, so. All right. And of course, here's another thing, just pointing out. I think I touched on it. But I'm looking at the ARPA account. It's gone from 5 million and 7 million to 0. It's done. And so that's having a ripple effect on some of this. So that's part of what we're having to deal with is, and I was afraid of, I'm not gonna go back and say I told you so, but, that was one of the things I was worried about when that money came in and created some of this stuff, is what are we gonna do when it goes away? And, so part of that's what's going on with this budget, is trying to figure out some of that.
You're in charge. Lady and gentlemen, thank y'all for your hard work.
Thank you.
I have eternal souls to go see about now. Not temporal money.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
What else?
You said something about tax assessor.
No, I think we got that cleared up.
Okay.
It's, the change happened apparently last year. I was looking at the delta from 2 years.
Okay. Fire protection. So on the proposed budget, contract services had 155,000. That 55,000 was for the Granbury fire, the building that they use for training, and I think we have other ways that we can cover that. Plan on that. So there's an item on the agenda for Tuesday to deal with that. So
I don't think you can use excess funds though from the tax sale. That's how it reads when I looked at it. You said excess funds.
not sales tax.
Excess funds, I got it. That's what you said, excess funds. Excess funds belongs, the person that owned the property has 2 years, or a year, depending if it's homestead or regular property, in which to claim the funds. You can't mess with that. Then after that period of time, it doesn't go back to the county, it goes back to the taxing entities in proportion to which they pay the taxes. So the school district gets the biggest chunk, then the county, then the city. So I don't
That's
think
already
you can
been
mess
Already
with
been
it.
done. Yeah, that's already done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the school already got, what, 900,000
Yeah,
or
close
something
to
like that. They already got
900,000
that,
we
and I
got
think
for it.
that the funds that are to us are past that claim date.
Way past.
They're more than 3 years old or whatever, and then, yeah.
Well, we
It's
have the
all,
checks.
it's all official.
We delivered the checks to you. Do you remember
Yeah, that was-
that? It was
that-
almost $400,000, wasn't it?
Yes.
You know, you talk about out of some of that money that we already received.
Yes, yes.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
the one.
I thought you just meant the sale because
No,
they
not the
just
one
had
we
a
just
million.
had. No.
I thought we had a million
Today.
one up there.
No.
Yeah.
No, the ones that we got last year, there was quite a bit of property that had been like old, and that was the ones that we got special account to be deemed where it should go. So that's on the agenda. I don't know how it will go on the agenda,
Is
but
that all that, is there still 400,000 in that special account?
It's in miscellaneous revenue, and you can.
Miscellaneous revenue?
Yes.
Yeah. But it's almost 400,000, 380 something, wasn't it?
I think, are you thinking of the HW fund maybe? Because I think that's that number.
I think the excess, I think that check was also
No.
increased.
It was around the same.
Yeah, 383, I thought.
Yeah, something like that.
So that's why that number changed. And then the VFD subsidy changed because the 400, as Commissioner Andrews explained at the beginning, the 450,000 for the EMS is being set aside as to come from fund balance if it's needed. And we'll know that on November 5th late or on November 6th. So.
Well, I think what we do, did we decide to leave that here? We had talked about maybe putting it somewhere else, but if we left it here, then we just know that that's a justification of 450,000 coming out of fund
I
balance.
think we should put it in emergencies.
The last I remember is we were gonna put it in 101. It was
Okay.
that separate
Emergency.
fund.
Yes,
So
okay,
it would transfer out and into there and then stay
okay,
there.
gotcha, all right, all right.
But we
Makes
can do
sense.
it however you want. If you wish to put it there.
No, that makes sense, so.
Yeah. Any other? Yeah, they're in emergency management. Emergency, where is it?
101.
Oh, that's a different one. So there's the radios in emergency management, $305,000. That's the big change. And as you can see, the appointed official is now, instead of the past 2 years are zero, that was being paid by ARPA, now it's not, so. Anything else?
So I don't know anything else until
Oh, we didn't, in the past JP2, on JP2, we did convert the,
well, I was wanting to look at that, technology fund, or
Oh, I
whatever,
mean-
JPs for the education and everything.
no, the part-time to
Oh,
full-time.
yes, oh, okay,
So
yeah,
there's no part-time in JP2 anymore, and there's
3
three
full-time.
full-time. So that was an addition of half a person, basically.
I wanted to address something I heard y'all talking about a while ago. I'm sorry I was off on a call. I'm on call till 7 o'clock. Y'all were talking about the excess money left in travel. Probably the reason I have excess money left in travel, and like you and I have discussed before, I'm not claiming my mileage when I go on call, because I just don't, I'm sorry, my brain don't work that way. I can't stop and take a picture of my mileage and write it down and turn it in and this thing. So that's probably the reason for the excess funds left in my mileage. Because if I claimed my mileage at about $200 a month, it would turn out to be about $2,400 a year. So that's the reason that money is probably left over. And it's like you and I talked before, and I think I may have spoke to you about it, maybe changing the system from a mileage to maybe a small stipend every month for us for fuel cost or something, because we do drive a lot of miles during our 7-day on-call period. That, the one time I turned my mileage in, it was over $200. But I just, my mind don't work that way. I can't stop and write mileage down and starting mileage and end mileage and this and that and the other. If I'm on the go, my ADHD don't let me do that. So that's probably the reason there was leftover money in there. And I would ask for you to leave it.
Yeah, it's,
Okay.
in fact, I think it might have gone up.
So I know now is probably not the time, but I would ask you to consider what we talked about just changing it from us having to keep track of starting at any mileage, turning it into her. She has to audit it, look at it, and make sure it all looks good, and then post a check, maybe just adding a little something to our check every month to cover our mileage and cover our fuel. Because we do drive a lot during that 7 days. We have our good weeks and our bad weeks, but if we have a bad week, we're liable to be, I mean, I've gotten up in the middle of the night in one night and come to and from the jail 3 times for NHMR, back and forth. That's 30-mile round trip, 3 times in one night. So that's 100 miles just, but between midnight and 6 a.m. So, you know, it's just, you just never know. I'm sorry, thank you.
What are you thinking?
Contract, well, I was at the sheriff's office now.
Sheriff's office?
The contract services, did that 150,000 out of contract services go over to IT? Is that what the,
It's supposed to go to emergency management to pay for the monthly radio.
oh, that was radios? Okay. Right.
So you were asking why the decrease from 161 to 8,000? Yeah, and it doesn't totally offset it because with some of it still coming out of ARPA, because now it's 300, and well, we have more radios.
So now we're actually paying the maintenance part of it as opposed to, in the past, we were just paying like half a year or a handful of months worth of maintenance. This time we're paying 12 months worth of maintenance on the
For
radio.
all the radios. So that's why I went from 161 to 300, so you get to pay for all of them.
On the original contract, there was one set every year, the same. I think
Made it better.
5, 6, 7 were gonna be a little higher, but that was in that first contract that we got, however many years ago that was.
Yeah, at one point it was almost a wash between dispatch at 148 and the radios at 160, but now it's not a wash anymore. Now it's,
Well, and that maintenance money, that's to Harris, the company, for keeping the technology, everything like that going. So that doesn't have
that's
anything
not
to do
this,
with
the Granbury.
Yeah, no, this is to keep everything up to date, to replace parts before the warranty expires, things like
Oh,
that.
okay. Different thing. Anything that's not sure.
well, yeah, I guess we need to talk about the investigators and deputies requested. So what's kind of the plan with the SB 22 for next year? I know I've had this talk with you personally on some of this stuff.
I hired 2 deputies, and I gotta cover that for next year. That was everything included with the pay and the benefits, everything. And still, and then the rest of it was going to the jail, to the jailers.
Okay.
And
So I can't do a investigator because it doesn't fit under they don't write tickets and do traffic stops and all that, so. It'll be doing the same thing I did with it this last year.
So that's 6 deputies and then 2, so that's 8 deputy increase since last year this time. Is that right? Am I getting that right?
Yeah, because the county paid for, get me 6 more, and
And then you got 2 with the SB 22, and that's probably gonna, is it time to apply for it again?
It is, so we're doing the compliance report right now, and we are starting the new applications. We've done applications for both prosecutor offices, we just have not made it to the sheriff's yet. But it's open and we're ready to go.
Do they say are the rules the same? Is the amount the same?
Everything is the same, the only difference is this time it's matching the county's fiscal year. The first go round, it started January 1 through October, now it's October 1 through the end of September.
Okay, well, let me ask you this, there was some of the part that you had allocated to equipment and other things. Do you think that it would be possible, because you're still gonna have to pay for the 2 that you already have with this next year's grant, would there be room in there to add a deputy and not have as much equipment expense?
yeah, we're not gonna really have any equipment money for next year. It'll be just straight paying for the employees. That's why I was able to get more equipment, because they gave me the 500,000, but they're giving me 500,000 next year, but next year I got a full year to pay for the employees, so I won't have any equipment money.
Okay, so two deputies
And
plus
50
all of their benefits.
Yeah,
And 52.
and 52 jailers.
Oh, that's right. I was like, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that all adds up, that comes up, off the top of my head, I think it was $7,000 short of $500,000. But it did make $9,000 interest, the money that was in the bank, so I don't know where that's gonna go, but if I get that or you guys get that, I don't know.
Where does that go? The interest on the SB 22.
That's an excellent question.
Are there rules about that?
There are. It probably falls under those same
Yeah,
restrictions.
you can probably use it for equipment.
Right.
Well, I just wanna make sure those employees are covered, so.
Mhm.
We've come a long ways in the last year with ARPA money and with that Senate bill money, equipment wise, so. And then we've gotta talk about another grant that we put into that they put into Infor, and we ended up a third of that, so that's gonna help for my people, so I'm very happy about that, so. Yes, if you gotta cut the people, I guess you gotta cut the people. The new ones, not the old ones.
Right.
There wasn't anything new on.
Aren't y'all ready to go home?
Yes.
You an 8 to 5?
I haven't got to the fun part yet.
I'll watch it on video. Thank you.
Is there anything in Justice Center?
Now, the travel, our transportation budget, I've got that highlighted here.
Under which,
105680,
under which budget?
sheriff. It's the transport. Which I'm not seeing. Which ones? 5680. Yeah, transport and travel.
Oh, here it is.
It shows fiscal activity at negative 10,000. Is that the reimbursed from,
We were looking at the computer, say that again.
yeah, the transport travel line, 105680? Yeah, is that reimbursed from, there's a $2,000 line item there. The expense for the year has been a negative 11,000 something.
Well,
Is that, it's under civil, sir, sheriff civil, is that that inmate Con Valley agreement that we have?
No, that's $20,000 paid for mileage, but what you're talking about is the money that, we had that starter money in there for any airplane tickets or hotel bills, whatever. But when we have to go out of state to pick up an inmate that's taken off on bond, didn't come back, the bondsman has to pay the rest of that, so we end up building that account. It doesn't go down, it goes up every year.
Okay.
Because the bondsman has to pay for the hotels, the airplane tickets, if we're flying like to the East Coast or the West Coast, or a number of years ago, we had to go to the Caribbean and pick up an inmate, so the bondsman had to pay for all of that.
Be a
Okay.
long layover on that trip.
Yeah.
So that's,
I couldn't find a jail.
so that's, so what you're saying is that's $8,000 to the good? Because it started out at 2,000 and it's got
Yeah.
12,000 and,
Yeah, that makes money every year when we
okay, so.
have absconders that we have to go pick up.
All right. Okay, I'd highlighted that because I was like, I need an explanation. It's the rest of it on mine too.
I'm gonna have to listen to the rest of it online too, I got another thought.
I'm down to IT.
Yeah, me too. Guess we can talk about environmental.
He just stepped out.
Oh,
Environmental health and collection stations. We didn't really change anything in IT, did we?
no, I just had a question, because I think a lot of stuff got rolled over to contract services and IT, because last year it was 705,000, this year it's 15, or 1.55. So I think that a lot of the other contracts, if they had anything to do with software, is now under IT's budget. Even
Correct.
if it's not something that you use.
Correct.
Look at but some of it just moved around, so like hardware,
Yeah.
software, last year was 1 million, now it's 500,000. So some of it moved from, right?
Right, because we were paying a lot of the contract services out of our hardware line when it should have been coming out of contract services.
Okay.
But
So they moved
overall
that, you moved
different.
that over. I might have that backwards, but something like that.
So the current total for IT is 3.3 million, okay, I'll start over. 3,311,279. I don't know what's on your sheet. Is that?
3,311,279.
Yeah.
Well, you know, that was the
Wow, the
same.
same.
Or for public assistance, or what?
Or
you say, oh, environmental. Yeah, environmental, kind of that same thing, convert part-time, they have part-time, that they want a full-time person. So again, it's creating habits.
Is that other employee that I've seen in your new one? There's another employee in the one I've got.
Oh,
In
yeah.
which one?
Yeah, I think that, is that budgeted in there? Because I'm with you, that it's, man, we got a big budget to make up here. We got a whole lot of deficit, and I'm not thinking under employees this year.
Yeah, and that was, so in this budget, there's not a new environmental, is there? Environmental, 6,300. It's 411,415.
Must be. Yeah, I think we, two technicians, the one that I've got.
Okay. What is it?
Is the office manager not in there?
Well,
Just
the
read
office
my-
manager was an admin assistant, and they've switched them
Yeah,
again.
that's just switching.
To the IT tech.
And then
That looks like the one.
appointed official, there's not very much of an increase in the technicians. I don't see an increase head count. What are you seeing?
I've got an old one.
Yeah, I think I'm on the whole one. Just looking, one to be free to it now.
Did you print the one I just
Yeah, it's
The
for,
today.
the total for environmental health is $411,450.
Okay, all right. I got no copy here, so.
Okay, so on public assistance, the 6,400 was asked, oh, Margaret left. Did you get to ask her? I asked her, but I don't know if she got an answer on the opioid.
I haven't heard back.
So the idea is to fund half of the MHMR out of the opioid grant and fund half of it out of here, so splitting it 16 and 16, so it's still 32. It's just part coming from another fund, if that can be done, which she was gonna check on the opioid, which I read it about a year ago and it was pretty broad. It's like if you do anything to counsel or educate or help with.
Yeah, it was
It was
very
pretty
broad.
broad.
I think that if we could tie that to chemical dependence, which
Right.
surely that wouldn't be that hard to do,
Right.
then help fund that out of the opioid. That'd help.
Yeah. And then,
And the historical commission,
yeah, they only asked for half of what, they get half of their money back this year, so they only asked for 2,500.
and then the nature center.
Yeah,
That, that's, I don't know if that's actually proper and okay for us to be given another taxing entity. With that being a development district.
The development district gets 501c3.
The development district, they charge a tax.
yeah,
They're a taxing entity, kinda,
But they're 501c3.
yeah, but they charge a half of a cent tax,
Mhm.
so, and we are
But they
conveying,
On
conveying.
verge, as soon as we get, Bureau of Land Management,
Convey it.
then it's totally, we're totally shut of that.
Yeah, so we're gonna convey that.
Paperwork process.
yeah, no, and I'm all in favor of that. I think we gotta just get out of that business entirely.
Yeah,
I mean, it's only $2,500.
Yeah.
Right.
Breaking even anyway,
Yeah.
but I think it's
We're
a
working on
cleaner.
deeding it over to the development district.
Yes,
We're working on deeding it over to the development district.
that Acton Nature Center,
Yeah.
yeah, the vortex, you're helping with that, right?
Yeah, I wrote the U.S. Department of Agriculture, or, that's not quite right.
Bureau of Land
Working on the
Management.
deed in the agreement. So
I
they're
figured-
attorneys looking at it now.
I figured when we started this that we wouldn't hear till Christmas, because we're working with the federal government.
That's about right.
So we might hear by Christmas. So far this year, the Hood County Development District 1 has, their sales tax income is $122,895. So to me, it kind of feels like people that shop in Acton are getting taxed, and then they're also getting taxed because part of their property tax is going to pay the development district.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not sure, since they are a taxing entity, how we can even do, how we can, not in a taxing entity.
Where the legislators set it up, so that's like, that's the answer I got, because they set it up, as a 501c3 with a tax, taxing capability.
That's a weird, like I said, I think if we
So
could
they'll,
just wash our hands of that one.
yeah,
Yeah.
and as soon as we get, the government, the federal government to release it, then, we're done.
So you're fine with taking it out of here since we're giving all the property?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do that.
All right. And then the senior center.
Yeah.
They've alternated every year. They've gone from 50 to 75 back and forth, but they went 75 2 years in a row.
Yeah, and last year we went up to 75 because they were gonna build a kitchen, and I asked Trish when she was here, and she said they hadn't built it yet, so I assume they still have that 25,000 there.
They've done it, I don't know if they have, I know they've been doing a lot of remodeling in the kitchen, they've got all new, I mean, the kitchen's been totally redone.
Oh,
I was out there
Yeah, we got some
last
sheriff.
week before.
Yeah, it's just now being finished up. We got some more stuff to do in the, where you wash the dishes, and then a stove. I just signed a big check day before yesterday, so it's just about done
okay.
on
And-
that remodeling.
And then they did, Judge, you asked, I asked, and then I followed up with, I can't remember the guy's name, they told me to follow up with. But they, out of that North Central Texas cog, they received over $600,000, $605,000 from North Central Texas cog for Meals on Wheels.
Well, they're very slow paying, so we don't get it all at once. We get it a little at a time, a couple months late. So, yeah, I'd have to get some records to tell you exactly what's going on with that.
Yeah, I think this was as of what they provided last fiscal year,
Yeah.
605,000, so,
They're all talking very slow to do anything.
okay. All right, so we'll leave that there, and I think that's about it. Unless anyone has anything on road ops or the library, they pretty much stayed. And road ops went up on contract services. And on right-of-way materials.
Yeah, I remember all the right-of-way materials have all gone up.
Mhm.
It was significant increases.
Mhm.
That's about all I have.
So capital projects, Fund 55. The requests, do you have that?
Yeah, pass that out to everyone else.
You did? The requests, okay, so we can take the,
Yeah, potentially some of this stuff, we could do, like we talked about the Bobcats.
yeah,
I don't know if I can get into that too much here. But, you know, there might be some other funding sources that we can do for some of this, reduce some of these anticipated capital requests. And then, yeah, that, seems like a place we can tighten up a little bit. Some capitals, as long as air conditioners work, make sure they're good. So.
I don't mean to butt in on the court, but I did receive the quote back to upgrade this room to make it current, and it is right underneath 100,000. It's like 98.8. I just got that today. Since that, I didn't have the number when we initially submitted this.
think you can get a grant for that? That's,
Do you have now a total revenue, total expenses on 10? That I can compare with what I've got after all this today?
Let me see if it's balanced, I may have to read.
I've got one comparison to last year and the year before.
I can tell you what it was when we started this meeting.
Okay?
Because we've made some changes, and so I need to redo it, rebalance it here. $42,366,423. That's the number. And it looks like the year before it was $39,738,303.
Right.
We made some additional cuts.
Yeah, today, so let me get back with you about today's changes,
Yes.
and I'll send it to you all.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank all y'all. Think we got rid of all the civilians in here. All right, well, we're adjourned at 5:18:45.